From the CISO Series, it's cybersecurity headlines.
Researcher creates fake passport using ChatGPT. Oracle confirms obsolete servers were hacked. And President orders probe of former CISA director Chris Krebs. These are some of the stories that my colleagues and I have selected from this past week's cybersecurity headlines. And now we're looking forward to some insight, some opinion, and most certainly some expertise from our returning guest, making her triumphant second appearance on our show, Carla Sweeney, SVP of InfoSec over at Red Ventures. Carla, it has been too long. I have to ask, how was your week in cybersecurity?
It was great, but my team is always very paranoid, and so I'll say it was fine.
Yes, I like this. Yes, couch everything. Like let's not get too high, that we don't get too low. This is an attitude I can get behind. Another thing I can get behind is our sponsor for today, Nudge Security, brings SaaS security risks out of the shadows. Now, some people that can get get as as jazzed as you want for the weekend here is our YouTube commenters, helping us out, making the show better. We really appreciate everyone that shows up and helps make the chat a really fun and welcoming place. So thanks to everybody that shows up every week. And if you want to join them, you can just go to our events page at CISOseries.com and click on the Weekend Review show. You will be directed to our YouTube link, and you can just subscribe there and then find us on YouTube, everyone. That's fine. All good. Before we jump into the show, just a quick reminder that all of Carla's opinions are her own, not necessarily those of her employer, her friends, family, or clergy. We've got about 20 minutes, so let's get started. First up here, researcher creates fake passport using ChatGPT. A Polish researcher successfully used ChatGPT 4.0 to create a fake passport in 5 minutes, suggesting that the document is realistic enough to bypass automated know your customer checks. He did this to emphasize the growing risk of mass identity theft for numerous types of nefarious purposes. Just 16 hours after his announcement, ChatGPT modified its prompt rules to no longer generate fake passports. Super nice of ChatGPT to turn off the old passport making feature, but obviously that's something of a drop in the ocean, given that there are so many other resources available to fabricate or alter identities, just different prompts, different IDs you could use, different LLMs. Carla, what goes through your mind as you see this continually advancing ability to create realistic fake media kind of across the board?
Yeah, I mean, how we can reliably verify an identity is becoming more and more vulnerable. We're in a time where sophisticated or expensive techniques are just becoming available to everyone, and security has always been a cat and mouse game. This situation just highlights, I think, the arms race between, in this case, forgery generation and ways to detect it. Um, I mean, I appreciate ChatGPT's quick response. I appreciate all the LLM guardrails that are being implemented, but we can't fully rely on these, or we can't wait on AI policy decisions to feel safe and protected. I also think about the continued need for more skepticism from everyone for everything. The paranoia that was generally limited to security teams, I feel like would benefit everyone. This is not a simple problem or a simple answer.
Yeah, kind of. We talk all the time on the CISO series about kind of like building a security culture, but increasingly it's becoming, letting the whole org and really letting all of society know, like, these are the capabilities. Here's what your expectation should be in terms of, how you should take people at their word. So some very, very good thoughts there. Second up here, Apple appeals UK encryption backdoor order. The UK's Investigatory Powers Tribunal, you may know it as the IPT, confirmed that Apple filed an appeal on an order that would require it to create a backdoor in its advanced data protection feature that's part of its cloud storage. The Financial Times first reported on the appealed order, and now the IPT has now confirmed it. So we're not just relying on sourced reporting. A hearing on the appeal was already held last month in London, but no media access was permitted, so we don't know the particulars of that. But Carla, over its history, Apple has staunchly protected its right not to make devices vulnerable to backdoors. Privacy is one of its big marketing features, essentially product differentiators. I'm curious, what's your opinion here? We could always make the argument that tense times, might call for law enforcement or governments to have access to what's on devices or in the cloud. But given the fact that we've seen many government departments being just as vulnerable to data breaches as the private sector, if not more so, I'm curious, should we be allowed to pursue this kind of backdoor conversation?
I mean, I think the argument from governments always centers on legitimate national security concerns. I
Mm,
fully understand that. But the counter argument is also very compelling. I mean, backdoors fundamentally weaken security for everyone. This would be an opening, not just for governments, which from a security standpoint, they are also fallible, just like the rest of us, but for bad actors too. And so when we open backdoors, they're open. I also think the intent of different governments can shift and sway based on the administration, or if we think about it globally, the regime of the government. And as something of a privacy advocate myself, I appreciate this from Apple. As a security advocate, I also see the benefit of not having backdoors that can then be exploited in various ways that are unintended. I mean, there's trade-offs to all privacy and security choices like this one. And of course, there are times when national security could benefit from more data. But I mean, I think especially in these tense times, there's going to be even more justification from Apple to hold tight.
yeah, and given it is not just, certainly it's not just coming from the UK. We hear these kind of arguments, whether it's going back to the FBI San Bernardino shooter, Apple unlock case with the US government, how many years ago, over a decade ago now. We've had encryption battles before smartphones, going, back to the 90s and stuff like that. So I think it's important for us to have this debate, but to still have the ability to legally have something that's private electronically, I feel like is an important precedent. Maybe not a production feature for all companies, but like to have that capability and have it legal to have that capability, I think is an important precedent for sure.
Agreed. Agreed.
Next up here, Oracle confirms obsolete servers hacked. Oracle has finally confirmed to customers that hackers leaked credentials stolen from its servers. Despite being adamant that Oracle Cloud Infrastructure had not experienced a security breach, the emphasis mine, they did say that a hacker was able to access hashed usernames and passwords from 2 obsolete servers that were never a part of OCI. Now, researcher Kevin Beaumont said that Oracle's denial of breach for Oracle Cloud comes down to just basically wordplay, since the breach servers were part of Oracle's older cloud services environment, which it has recently rebranded as Oracle Classic, taking the Warcraft approach there. Carla, what's your take on this?
I think there are so many nuances to corporate communications during and after a security incident. So this does not at all surprise me. Like if we read any mandatory disclosure language, then you read language like this all the time. And I think Oracle is using very specific and exact language to be technically correct and not lying, but minimizing damage to their brand. Of course, they want to assure their customers and their future customers that using the service is safe. And I'm not a lawyer or a PR person, but certainly understand wanting to protect the trust that the customers have. So this doesn't surprise me. I do think it can backfire if it starts to look like you're trying to minimize the problem. In this case, the passwords were hashed, so it's okay. But even hash passwords can be vulnerable depending on the algorithm and if they were salted and things like that. And I think the question that I am lingering with is, if these servers were obsolete, why were they not decommissioned? Why were they up in the first place? So I know Oracle is trying to make everyone feel good, but I still have questions.
I completely agree with the idea of like, let's give the corporate comms team the benefit of the doubt. Like never ascribe to maliciousness what can be ascribed to overly cautious lawyers. I think this every time there's like a terms of service kerfuffle where someone adds something and it seems kind of out of left field. It was like a lawyer copy pasted that out of some other agreement in there to give them future clearance for something that they're not actually doing right now. I feel like that's the same way here, but I don't know. I think there is, for cybersecurity specifically, there is such an emphasis on timely disclosure, transparency being a key to this, kind of answering a lot of these questions. CCL raised the exact same point you did. How customer data somehow got sucked onto an obsolete server, and then Kevin Farrell's asking, it wasn't obsolete until it was breached, right? ... So again, the problem that it is it's I again sympathetic to that, but when you have kind of this delayed and kind of run through the mill kind of answer to this, the natural, like the cybersecurity community of all people are the, a little bit skeptical, maybe a little bit jaded depending on experience. And you're more likely to read ill intent as opposed to, we got breached. Here's the specifics. It wasn't Oracle Cloud, but it was, this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's always something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Before we move on to our next story, I have to spend a few moments with our sponsor for today, Nudge Security. Are you struggling to secure your exploding SaaS footprint? With Nudge Security, you can discover all SaaS apps and accounts, manage access, ensure secure configurations, vet unfamiliar tools, and automate daily identity security tasks. Visit nudgesecurity.com. That's NUDGESECURITY.com. All right, one of the bigger stories that broke late this week, President orders probe of former CISO director Chris Krebs. President Trump signed an executive order on Wednesday intending to that remove the security clearance for Chris Krebs, who had served as director of CISA and who was fired in 2020 after having stated that there had been no technical issues with the presidential election. The executive order not only directs agencies to revoke Krebs' security clearance, but also to suspend those held by individuals at entities associated with Krebs, including the cybersecurity firm SentinelOne, where he's the chief intelligence and public policy officer. The directive is pending a review of whether such clearances are consistent with the national interest, according to a fact sheet supplied by the White House. So, Carla, it is, of course, no surprise that Krebs ended up with a target on his back here, but I'm curious, what does this do to the morale of CISOs and security, executive security professionals everywhere, knowing that they too might be subject to an action similar to this if they choose to take up government work?
Yeah, I think this one's rough and I'm sure tough to hear for a lot of security professionals, especially leaders. And in this case, having his security clearance revoked is another dimension specific to government agencies that goes beyond personal reputation and personal financial impact. And the ripple effect of associated individuals and private organizations, like in this case, SentinelOne, makes it even more concerning. Like the fact that even after your government service, your professional network, and your subsequent employer and associates could face additional scrutiny based on something that happened years ago is really disheartening. And I think government agencies already have to compete with the private sector from a salary standpoint. And so, especially given, and in addition to the ongoing uncertainty around employment in government agencies right now, this definitely doesn't help the friends in recruiting who are trying to get cybersecurity professionals to join.
Yeah, the talking about the competing with the private sector on salary, benefits. You're already asking people to essentially say, hey, for the sake of, what do you want to call it? Patriotism, civic pride, realizing that you're doing an important mission, like that has a real draw to a lot of people. That's why people go into government work. And the idea of making that more potentially problematic to your career later, is something. And I think of this kind of in the same vein as the recent SEC scrutiny of CISOs, where we're seeing a lot more responsibility and potential liability put onto the role. It makes that all goes into the calculus, right, of what you decide to do with your career as a cybersecurity professional if you get into that field, depending on at what point in your career. So we, like you said, a ripple effect that maybe we will see for years to come from at this point. Next up here, researchers warn about AI-driven hacking tool. Researchers at /Next published details about Xanthorox AI, which I have to note is a great name for a death metal band. Xanthorox AI is a modular AI-driven hacking tool first spotted on a hacker forum last month. Xanthorox uses 5 operational models to handle things like code generation, vulnerability exploitation, data analysis, and integrates voice and image processing, making it capable of both automated and interactive attacks. As opposed to running on jailbroken existing LLMs, Xanthorox runs on a self-contained architecture on dedicated servers, with its operators claiming it's a custom LLM. So, Carla, thinking back to our passport story earlier, it's obvious that threat actors aren't waiting around to get permission to use publicly available LLMs, or at least commercially available ones. How does this impact on, how does this kind of phenomenon, this reality, I guess now, impact a company's defense in-depth strategy?
I mean, it's the cat and the mouse are all moving so fast right now. I think the detection mechanisms need to be need to account for these more sophisticated attack patterns and the fast changing ones. So behavioral analytics and anomaly detection are going to be much more effective. And the days of signature based only are gone. Like that's going to be unhelpful at this point. I think these advanced capabilities make attacking much cheaper. And so where threat actors might say, well, it's too expensive, we're not going to get the return, that's changing too. So where companies might have thought, well, I'm not going to be a target because they won't get what they think they're going to get from me, they might be willing to invest because it's less of an investment to attack. And so I think the best defense is going to have to be more broad, not just on the likely attack vectors, but if the cost of attack is going down, then they can do more with less. That means we have to protect more. And I think testing is going to be critical too. So the manual red teaming and pen testing methods aren't going to tell us if we're ready against these more sophisticated attacks. And so we'll have to test ourselves in different ways too. So it's a cat and mouse game. It always has been. It just feels like the speed has ramped way up.
Yeah, the idea of, we saw things like Worm GPT, which are effectively running on cracked versions of, Chat GPT. They found a jailbreak that they could exploit for like 5 minutes and send out, and run it over Telegram or something like that. This to me feels like, we've seen DeepSeek kind of pioneer, like, hey, you can do a whole lot with a model that can fit entirely in RAM on a consumer, something that anybody can go out and buy. Does, like you said, the hits kind of keep on coming with this. Is this kind of independently running LLM, essentially like custom made for threat actors? Like, does this seem like it happened, I don't know, orders of magnitude faster than I thought it did? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it feels like it was way faster, and it feels like what, maybe a year ago we thought, oh, it'll be a couple of years. Now we're saying it's months, days, tomorrow, yesterday.
Well, and getting to that, our next story here kind of speaks to just how fast things are moving. So we have kind of a triple story here: precision validated phishing, AkiraBot, and WinRAR. Xanthrox AI, like not the only one with cool names in the news this week. We got 3 more, kind of the exact same vibe here. First up, precision validated phishing uses real-time email validation to ensure phishing content is shown only to pre-verified high-value targets. Second, an AI platform called AkiraBot is spamming website chats, comment sections, and contact forms to craft content that it can bypass spam filters. And third, a vulnerability in the WinRAR file archiver solution, it's the one you never pay for, that could be exploited to bypass the mark of the web security warnings. So, here we have 2 AI tools and a vulnerability, all of which are revealing growing security weaknesses thanks to accelerating sophistication on the part of threat actors. AI obviously playing, part of why that's happening. But which one of these, I guess, stands out the most to you, Carla?
I think the phishing vetting is really interesting. These attackers are thinking about how to get better results while staying quiet. And the target is everybody. And I think that's what's always so compelling about social engineering is the attack surface is literally everybody. And so specifically knowing, yes, this is my target who's responding. This is where I'm going to spend my time. I'm not going to waste a bunch of time with passwords or credentials that are fake or that are going to get me caught is, I think, very interesting in speaking to, just like a business, how are they getting the results faster with less effort and with more precision? Yeah. And of course, like how our detection is now falling behind and how can we stay ahead of this?
Yeah, that the precision phishing, it really changes fundamentally like what that threat means, right? Because it was always cast the biggest net, someone will click, right? Like that's the thing with phishing. It's like you do it enough, someone eventually will click. And now this is, we can still do that and yeah, stay under the radar. It changes how much time you would want to invest in each of these prompts and stuff like that. So it gets tricky really fast. CCL in agreement, AI is an accelerator in both directions. We did talk about this a little bit on Super Cyber Friday earlier today. You can check out the replay over to look for it at CISOseries.com. Just this idea that there is, this isn't completely asymmetric, right? Like defenders are getting these tools. The productization might take a little bit longer, but it's not completely one-sided. It may feel like that sometimes when we were seeing, rise in deepfake threats and using them for social engineering and stuff like that. So definitely social engineering on the mind in the news and on the CISO series today. Before we get out of here, Carla, was there any story that was a thumbs up or an eye roller for you?
I will give a thumbs up to Apple. I think opening back doors just opens up risk for everyone. So keep going, Apple.
Yeah, and the fact that it's kind of a squishy thing to explain, like saying we respect privacy, that's like an easy, like, okay, people generally like privacy or understand that, but like to go to bat for encryption is a much tougher thing to
Mhm.
sell, especially when you can have a government say, well, you're allowing drug dealers, you're allowing CSAM and stuff, like all like very horrible things to happen
Right.
because of like that's a tough thing to go to bat for. So I respect any
Mhm.
company that will do it, whether it's Apple or Signal or whoever. So yeah,
Mhm.
definitely some thumbs up there as well. And a big thank you to everybody in our chat today. I saw CCL, I see Kevin Farrell, I see Adam Motswiri over on LinkedIn joining in on us, Max Tronic. Big Boss Man David Spark is on vacation. He's taking some well-deserved time off, so he'll be in the chat next week. And before we get out of here, Carla, where can people find you on the cyberspace if they're so inclined?
Come find me on LinkedIn.
Excellent. We will have a link for that in our show notes as well. Thank you so much, Carla Sweeney, SVP InfoSec over at Red Ventures, for your triumphant return. I'm declaring it triumphant. This was spectacular. Thank you so much for your time and your insight today with the news.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks also to our sponsor today, Nudge Security, brings SaaS security risks out of the shadows. And thanks once more to our audience, because this show wouldn't be the same without you. I see you, Jason Eyestone. You were trying to sneak in there. You still get a thank you too as well. Join us next week, first up on Super Cyber Friday, where our topic of discussion will be hacking the evolving DDoS, an hour of critical thinking about the changing threats to service availability. That's at 1 p.m. Eastern. Then flash forward 2.5 hours later, we got the Week in Review show. Yes, that's right. This very show that you are watching right now. To register to join us on either of these, head to the events page at CISOseries.com. Make sure you're also subscribed to us on YouTube so you know when we go live. In the meantime, you can still get your daily news fix every single day with cybersecurity headlines. Give us about 6 minutes. We'll get you all caught up. Until the next time we meet, for myself, for Carla, for our producer, Steve Prentice, for all of us here in the CISO Series family, here's wishing you and yours to have a super sparkly day.
Cybersecurity headlines are available every weekday. Head to CISOSeries.com for the full stories behind the headlines.